is asking, okay, so good afternoon. Hopefully you can all see me and hear me. I am live. It's April 22, 2002. I hope the lighting is okay. So my name is Adejobi-Adesola. I am the owner of this page. I am the principal consultant with ADI Visas and Immigration. So I am making a live video to talk about the updates that were made today regarding express entry, as well as measures that will be put in place to address labor shortages in Canada, owing to the pandemic and the labor shortages that came with it. So if you're just joining us on this page today, please share. My name is Adejobi-Adesola. I am making this video from the town of Okotoks in Alberta, Western Canada, and welcome to my live updates. Please share, please let others know that I'm live, and I hope you enjoy this. So today, April 22, 2002, the Immigration Minister for Canada, the Honorable Minister Sean Fraser, made some announcements today regarding new measures to address labor shortages in Canada. So it's good news for folks who've been in the express entry pool, good news for those who've come to Canada as visitors, and also good news for international students. So you would recall that many applicants in the express entry pool got very agitated. They've been waiting for so long, and week after week, month after month, there were no selections, no draws from the federal skilled workers for those who are abroad. So mostly the selection was made from the Canadian experience class. That's folks who have some sort of experience and are already inside Canada, either as they graduated and worked in Canada for a while, or they were here on temporary foreign workers permits. Those were drawn from the express entry pool year in, since 2021. I think since the pandemic actually started and there were travel restrictions, there was actually a limit on people that could people that were folks that were abroad were not being selected from the pool. So we had a draw week after week, month after month from the Canadian experience class. So good news for those in the express entry category who are abroad. The government of Canada made some announcements today about what is in store for folks like that. So like I said, the CEC class, folks that have been drawn from the Canadian experience class, are those who have been inside Canada and who had, it was easier for them to be drawn from the pool so that they could actually apply for permanent residency right away. So largely, most of the reasons behind folks abroad not being drawn, like I said, had to do with the pandemic, had to do with closure of immigration departments abroad, had to do with CIC staff. Some were also working remotely, and of course the travel restrictions were there. So now let's talk about these new measures. I would say that there are about 3 or 4. 2 of them are interrelated, but the first one has to do with the express entry pool. So what is going to happen with the express entry pool? So express entry draws, according to the minister today, good news for folks who are abroad and in the federal skilled trades or federal skilled worker category, especially if you're abroad. So what we learned today is that beginning in early July, express entry draws will resume, and invitation for candidates to apply for permanent residency will begin as soon as possible. And we have a date for early July. And the immigration minister and department also promised that majority of new applications will be processed within the 6-month service standard. So that's good news. So express entry candidates expect to be drawn from the pool starting in early July. Folks who are abroad, not those in the CEC class. They may be drawn as well, but in addition, we will have folks who are abroad also, since the travel restrictions have been lifted. And we do have travel measures in place to be sure that, travel protocols in place for folks coming from abroad, but the restrictions have largely been lifted. So for those in the express entry category abroad, you should keep an eye out anytime from July for you to be selected from the pool. That is, if you're already qualified. If you know that you're, another thing to say is, if you know that your profile in the express entry pool will be expiring anytime soon, if you know that your IELTS will be expiring anytime soon, make sure that you update it so that there are no delays with your selection. Update your IELTS, update your language, your credential evaluation reports. Make sure that everything is in place so that by July, if you are drawn from the pool, then, there are no issues. You can be sure that, you will, just immediately get your invitation to apply, and then you can apply for permanent residency right away without any delays. So that's number one. That's good news for express entry candidates. So now let's talk about the other one. The next one is for international students. So the minister also announced a new temporary policy for international students. So international graduates with expiring temporary resident status. So if their temporary resident status will be expiring anytime soon, which will be your postgraduate work permit. If it will be expiring anytime between January and December 2022, good news. You will qualify for an additional open work permit of up to 18 months. And this will be effective in the summer of 2022. That's good news as well. So if you've been a student in Canada, you've been on a postgraduate work permit, and your postgraduate work permit will be expiring between January and December 2022, then you can be sure you can apply for an additional 18 months for you to be able to stay back in Canada and work for another 18 months in Canada. And these will be effective in the summer of 2022. So remember that what we're talking about is how Canada is planning to address labor shortages, right? Temporary policies in place to address labor shortages due to the pandemic. So the third one, which a lot of people are already familiar about, is a temporary measure that was put in place in August 2020 for visitors who have been coming, who are coming into Canada as visitors on a visitor visa, for them to be able to apply for a work permit inside Canada. So the temporary measure in place is that, number one, I'm going to explain this because there's been a bit of confusion between, some would tell you, oh, it's been closed, you can no longer put in applications as a visitor. Some would say, it's a lot of confusion out there. So let me break this down. This is how it works. There are two things to keep in mind. So regarding applying for work permits as a visitor in Canada, that has been extended to February 28, 2023. So if you're in Canada as a visitor, you can apply for a work permit so long as you have a job offer with a Canadian employer. You can apply for a work permit. And so this temporary policy for you as a visitor in Canada to be able to apply for a work permit in Canada, work specific, which means it must be by one employer, not just an open work permit, specific to one employer. You have that job offer, you're a visitor in Canada, you can apply until it's been extended to February 28, 2023 for you to be able to apply for a work permit with an employer here once you have a job. The other thing, the confusion there is, which one was it that was closed? So if you have worked in Canada on a and you were a visitor and you've worked in Canada for at least 1 year as a temporary worker, you were a visitor, you applied for a work permit, and now you have applied for permanent residency as well, that has been closed. That was that ended. It was the application for permanent residency by folks who came in as visitors has ended. It was closed in November 2021. So right now, visitors can only apply for work permits. Those who have already put in their application for permanent residency because they've been working on a work permit for a while, maybe for over a year, those ones whose applications are already in for permanent residency will continue to be processed. But folks who are just coming in right now cannot apply for permanent residency as we speak. So take note of the difference. Folks who are here as visitors can still apply for a work permit once they have a job offer. They can do that up until February 28, 2023. For those who have already been inside, they've worked for maybe over a year, they've put in an application for PR, it will be processed. But right now, there are no new applications being accepted for permanent residency through the visitor pathway. So take note of those changes. But it's still good news that, visitors here can still apply for work visas. So effective this summer, those in this pathway who have already submitted applications for PR will no longer have to remain in Canada while their application is being processed. That's a change that we'll see. So for those who have already put in their PR applications and maybe their work permit has expired and they maybe don't have a job and they want to go back home, they can go back home. The permanent residency will still be processed. That's one of the new measures that was announced today for folks who are here waiting to hear back regarding their permanent residency application, and they were visitors, they worked here, they put in an application for PR, they haven't heard anything, they want to go back home, they're not sure they'll be allowed back in case they're refused. This is saying effective this summer, if you want to go back home, your application will still be processed if you want to go outside of Canada and return home. So that's another cheering news. And then those who have open work permits, maybe they applied for open work permits upon losing the previous permits that they have, while waiting for the finalization of their permanent residency, they will be able to get work permits that are valid until December 2024. So that's good news as well. So all of this to ensure that labor shortages are met in Canada. It's good news for everybody. It's good news for Canada, good news for folks who want to stay back here. So as long as the job opportunities are available and you're able to find a job, you can apply for work permits until December 2024. So the other good news is that if, for instance, immediate family members who are added onto your application for permanent residency, even when you came in as a visitor, you've worked, you're now applying for PR, your immediate family members who were included in your PR application will now be eligible for an open work permit. So what are we saying? If, for example, your wife came to Canada on a temporary visa as a visitor, they got a job here, they applied for a work permit, and eventually for PR, you, their husband, who is abroad, outside Canada, will now be eligible for an open work permit. So that's also good news. Good news, good news, good news all the way. So good news for everyone. So according to the minister and what I explained before, Canada's economy is growing faster than the number of workers that we have in our labor force. So we need to look at every option available so that we have the skills and the labor needed to fuel our economic growth. So as a recap, I'm just going to say we've had the updates in 3 areas: express entry, international students, visitors, which would be, we call it the temporary to permanent residency pathway, and then their family members. So express entry candidates, expect that in early July, you can now expect to be selected from the pool starting from early July. So as I said before, remember to update whatever needs to be updated in your profile in the express entry pool. Your IELTS, ensure it's good. Your credential, check that everything is all good. If you have any updates regarding family, regarding a new job, regarding pregnancy, a new birth in the family, a divorce, a death, whatever it is, make sure that it's all updated and you're ready for July. You probably will be called anytime in July, selected from the pool, especially if you have, if you qualify and you know that you should have been selected from the pool. Do anything at all to ensure that your scores are not going down, but they're going up. So that's one. The other thing is, so that's for express entry. The other thing I talked about was international graduates. If they've been here on the postgraduate work permit, and the work permit will be expiring between January and December 2022. So good news for you now that you can now apply for an extension, a further 18 months on that work permit, for you to be able to stay back for another 18 months in Canada to gain valuable work experience. So that's good news as well. And then regarding visitors, remember what I said. Take note, visitors can still apply for work permits up until February 2024. Up until February 2023. If you're a visitor here. If you are a visitor who has already worked in Canada on a work permit, applications are no longer being accepted for permanent residency. Not at this time. It was closed in November 2021. But if you have, you know, if you already have an application in for permanent residency, it will still be processed. Even if your work permit expires and you want to go back home, you can always go back home. And also good news for those who have already put in their PR through the temporary to permanent residency route. If you are your immediate family members, not your grandparents, not your cousins, your spouse and your children under the age of 22, that you have included in your application, they will be eligible for open work permits, as long as your permanent residency application is here and it's already been put in place. You will be eligible for they will be eligible for open work permits as well. So that's good news. Also, the other thing was, what was it again that I said? So those who have open work permits, so folks who have already put in an application as well, who have open work permits and who are waiting for the finalization of their PR in Canada, also will be able to extend and renew until February 2024. So they can still work here while their permanent residency application is being finalized. So I think it's good news all around. I just wanted to do that update. Sorry, I am very camera shy. That's why you don't see me often. I'd rather write. I'm very powerful with my pen than going on video. But I just thought I'd make this one today, just so you guys. And I also noticed that my page has been extremely quiet. It looks like people are wondering, is anybody still here? So I'm still here. You know, Corona it hit everybody hard. It visited my household and members of my household. So, you know, we had our hands full, but thank God everybody is okay now. So we're back. You may not see me making a lot of videos. Like I said, I'm very camera shy, but you will see that I post updates from time to time. So we're still here. So please say hi, stop by and say hi. And remember to send your messages by DM if you have any questions for me. I'll be happy to answer them. But you will see that I keep posting. I post updates from time to time, even if I don't make live videos. So if you need me to make a live video and you're wondering where have you been, please shoot me an email and say make a live video and let's see your face again. So it's been nice passing on these updates. Thank you so much for staying on my page, and please let's interact. Stay with me and bear with me for my shortcomings. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys have a lovely weekend, and I hope you had a productive week as well. Once again, it's Adejobi-Adesola from Canada. Take care now, and thank you for listening. Bye now.